dear friend. She actually lives in our community, and most of you won't know this, but the insomnia that comes with menopause is the hardest insomnia to treat. It's almost impossible. So women lose estrogen and they can't fall asleep. It's strange. And the only way to put them to sleep is to give them estrogen, which of course mostly for some good reasons we don't want to do or we can't do, having a lot to do with cancers of the various female organs. It's a bad trick that that God himself has played on us. But I remember this friend of ours was going through menopause, and she literally couldn't sleep. I mean, for nights and nights, she just wouldn't sleep. Then she would pass out one night, and then she'd be awake for a week. And one day she was going to work. She told me this story later, and she said to herself, "Do I actually feel tired?" And then she said, "I don't feel tired." And then she said to herself, "So why am I going to keep worrying about not sleeping?" And she literally was able to let it go and do great, go in and put in these long work days and live the whole rest of her life. We are, many of us, very attached to the notion of sleep. And of course, most of us in this human condition need some sleep. Of course we do. I'm not being silly. But most of us are getting some sleep. Most of us, the more we begin to rely on energy rather than that kind of unconscious state of rest, but go into conscious states of rest, even by bringing it to mind. This is why that affirmation, within me lies the energy to accomplish all that I will to do. Behind my every act is God's infinite power. Most of us, if we think about it, meditate on it, pray about it, probably don't need 8 hours sleep, even though I know I'm going against a lot of what medicine. But most of these people who are involved in the studies and doing the studies, they're not meditating an hour or two a day. They're not tapping into an infinite source. And we are. And we have to remember that. So I don't know what you're feeling, and most of you cannot see Suryani's eyes, but they're her eyes. We all know her eyes. They're bright, they're big, they're awake. She's sitting here with great energy. She meditated for an hour, I think without falling asleep. She's given me the thumbs up. So again, I'm not being silly. We have to ask ourselves why we can't sleep, usually because we're carrying our days into the night. And I don't actually want to talk about sleep disturbances because they're many, they're varied, they're difficult. But almost, or in many instances, it's something that we're doing in our lives. And now there's sleep clinics where people can be trained to sleep better, to not eat certain foods later in the day, to not watch the news at 11 at night, or even have a television on in your bedroom, or lift up your phone or your tablet right before you go to sleep. There's a lot about it, but what's interesting about this question is our attachment to sleep. And when we say, I'm of the mind that I need 8 hours sleep or I'm not going to do well, you will need 8 hours sleep or you won't do well. That's exactly what will happen. Trying to remember right now the story. Because I can't bring it up, but it's one of our readings from Rays that we do every year. But as soon as the devotee says to Master, "Oh, but I won't be able to do that, will I?" I'm sure many of you now remember the story that I can't, but it doesn't matter. Then Master says, "No, because you have that thought." Our thoughts are so important. So when I can't sleep, I usually, and I just get up out of bed for a while if I can't, because laying there is very difficult. And I put on my headphones or whatever they're called, I forget. Those ear pods, ear what? Yeah, whatever they are, forgive me. And so I'm quiet and I listen to instrumental music of Swamiji's. I don't put words in my head that I'm going to be thinking about. And if I don't sleep, I don't sleep. And I never had a sleeping problem, but in the last couple of years, I'll often wake up at 2. And you know, there are times you just wake up and you go, that's it. I'm not going back to bed. You just know. Other times you think you'll do some things and you'll make it back to sleep. But often between 2 and 3, I'm awake. And then I say to myself, then you'll need to be awake and ready. Because the truth is, if we're tuned in and connected enough, we don't need sleep. We need sleep until we can get there, and we need to be realistic. But I wouldn't affirm, I need this, I need that, or I would start affirming, I am energy. Energy doesn't get tired. It's energy. And take that with us into the day, because otherwise we make ourselves sleepy. So, mindset. And again, I realize we need to sleep. We are not the masters who never sleep. At least I'm not. Probably most of us aren't. So most of us need some sleep, but most of us could do much better than we think with less sleep than we get. So we have to change our minds.